Michael Jackson was arguably the most famous person on the planet, especially during the peak years of his popularity. To some, he was an endearing man-child with a heart of gold. To others, he was an entitled pop superstar. Michael Jackson first became successful as a child fronting the Jackson 5 with his brothers. The Jackson 5 became one of the most memorable acts on Motown Records. The label would become the cornerstone of 60s and 70s pop music. When Thriller was released at the end of 1982, its lead single was "The Girl Is Mine." Launching that single 6 weeks before the album's November 30th release with a living legend like McCartney made a lot of sense, but the song itself is arguably the weakest track on the album. Rolling Stone called it a wimpoid middle-of-the-road ballad and even called out McCartney for being lame. Though a top 5 hit it in the US, it failed to hit number 1 anywhere except for Spain. Not a strong start to what will become the biggest selling album of all time. But things soon changed, and changed drastically.
All right, it's 1983! Happy New Year! Happy New Year!
As 1983 started, Michael released Billie Jean as the second single. The album was only out for a month by this point, and it took 2 months for the song to climb the Billboard charts to the top spot. It stayed put for 7 straight weeks there. It became Michael's fastest rising number 1 hit since his first singles as part of the Jackson 5 13 years before. It also went on to become one of the biggest selling singles of all time. Billie Jean and the Thriller album topped the charts in the same week and in both the USA and UK at the same time, something quite rare back then, but a lot more common these days since streaming. 1983 was also the year Detroit record label Motown celebrated their 25th anniversary. Michael and his brothers, the Jackson 5, made their big break with the company back in 1969. To celebrate the milestone, Motown decided to throw a concert with some of their biggest stars. This included Lionel Richie, Marvin Gaye, Stevie Wonder, Diana Ross, and The Temptations, to name just a few. Michael was, of course, asked to reunite with his brothers and perform some Jackson 5 hits. Michael initially refused, as he didn't want to take the spotlight away from all the work and success he was having as a solo artist with Thriller. However, Berry Gordy, founder of Motown and mentor to Michael, visited Michael to ask him personally. Eventually, the young singer agreed, however on one condition, that he could perform Billie Jean. This was a contentious and bold ask, as the song had nothing to do with Motown, but Gordy relented and the performance was booked.
If you really want me to do it, I will. There's just one thing.
Oh, strings, huh?
I'll sing with my brothers, but I want a solo spot.
Motown 25 Yesterday Today Forever was pre-taped. The recording happened on March 25th, at which point Billie Jean was at number 1 and had been for nearly 4 weeks. The Jackson 5 were the 4th act to perform, and even Jermaine joined his brothers on stage for the first time in 8 years. The brothers performed a classic Jackson 5 medley, busting out the hits I Want You Back, The Love You Save, Never Can Say Goodbye, and ending with I'll Be There. After huge applause and many on-stage hugs, the brothers left Michael there alone. Grinning from ear to ear, Michael addressed the audience.
Yeah, I have to say, those were the good old days. I love those songs. Those were magic moments with all my brothers, including Jermaine. But, you know, those were good songs. I like those songs a lot, but especially I like the new songs.
He then put his microphone on the stand, picked up a black fedora from the floor, and slammed it on his head as the first beats of Billie Jean blasted through the speakers. Wearing black tuxedo pants, sparkly socks and penny loafers, a black sequined jacket, and a single-wile rhinestone-encrusted glove on his left hand, Michael sang the song from start to finish, mesmerizing the audience as they clapped to the beat. The performance was lip-synced due to the backing band not being able to replicate the correct sound for the song that Michael would have wanted. But it was during the instrumental bridge where Michael changed popular culture forever and set his career on a new path of legend and icon. No one was expecting that this performance would become a watershed moment in popular culture history. Up to this point in the performance, you already couldn't take your eyes off of Michael. He commanded all the attention. No one in the audience wanted to miss a second that they would dare glance away. As the music played, Michael spun around, pulled up his pants, looked forward, and glided backwards. the audience went wild, screaming and applauding what they had just seen, knowing there and then they had just witnessed history in the making. To end the moonwalk, Michael span around and landed on his toes for a brief moment, one that he later talks about with regret that it wasn't for longer. Michael had been practicing the moonwalk in his kitchen prior to the show and nailed it. Nearly 2 months later, on May 15th, Motown 25, Yesterday, Today, Forever aired on TV and was watched by 50 million people. The show did especially well in New York, Chicago, Los Angeles, Detroit, San Francisco, and Philadelphia. By this point, Billie Jean was no longer number one. However, Beat It was. There was only a week gap between Michael's two songs being at the top spot. After the show aired, Fred Astaire called Michael to congratulate him on the performance. Sammy Davis Jr. also reached out to say how much he loved the performance. In September that year, Michael gained an Emmy nomination for his show-stopping routine. In the years that have followed, Michael continued to perform Billie Jean hundreds of times during all his tours, as well as various TV appearances. He kept the same routine that he debuted at Motown 25, though it was refined, and he mastered holding his toe stand for longer. Michael's appearance is hailed to be his breakthrough performance as a solo artist, cementing his status as the biggest entertainer in the world. This was only reinforced as Thriller continued to explode in sales, becoming the biggest-selling album of all time. His moonwalk has been ranked as one of the greatest TV moments and one of the most important pop culture moments in music history. One thing that cannot be denied, and is valid whether you see him as an angel or a devil, is his unmatched talent as a performer. In the end, that's the legacy he leaves us. The music which proves that no matter what else Michael Jackson was or wasn't, his creative genius will continue to excite and inspire others for many years to come.